"Ma'am, this room is for executives only. Please wait outside." Those were the words that changed everything. What the smug receptionist didn't know was that the woman she had just dismissed wasn't there to apply for a job. She owned the entire company. On a rainy Monday morning, a well-dressed black woman stepped into the grand lobby of one of the city's top marketing firms. The floor gleamed under her heels, the air smelled faintly of expensive cologne and fresh coffee, and everyone around her moved quickly, except her. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't lost. She walked with confidence, wearing a navy blazer, tailored pants, and carrying a sleek leather portfolio. This black woman moved like someone who belonged there, not like someone asking for permission. But that wasn't how the receptionist saw her. As the black woman approached the front desk, the young receptionist barely lifted her eyes. Her fingers danced over the keyboard as she said in a dismissive tone, "Interviews are at the back. Please wait outside with the others." No greeting. No question. Just a quick, casual judgment. The black woman paused, surprised but composed. She responded calmly, "I'm here for the 10 a.m. board meeting." The receptionist let out a small laugh, not cruel, but clearly dismissive. "That meeting's for senior executives only. You're definitely in the wrong place." The black woman didn't blink. She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice or explain who she was. She simply stood still. Not offended, just observing, measuring. After a short pause, she gave a polite but knowing smile. "I'll wait, but you may want to call your director." The receptionist didn't. She rolled her eyes, muttered something under her breath, and went back to typing, as if the conversation were over. But it wasn't. The black woman reached into her bag and calmly made a phone call. What the receptionist didn't know, what no one in that building knew yet, was that the woman standing in front of her wasn't there for an interview or a meeting. She was the new CEO. This black woman had just acquired majority ownership of the company. She had built her career from the ground up, sold 2 successful startups, and was brought in by the board to rescue a failing organization. And now, on her very first visit, she'd already seen the company's biggest problem. A culture that judged before it listened. A staff that assumed before it respected. All it took was one glance at her skin tone, her gender, and maybe the fact that she didn't come in shouting titles or dropping names, and they assumed she was beneath them. But in less than a minute, they would find out exactly who they had just dismissed. Because this black woman didn't just walk into the building. She owned it. And in a few more minutes, she'd begin the biggest transformation the company had ever seen, starting with the people who thought she didn't belong. Her name was Maya Carter. To some, she was just another well-dressed woman walking into a corporate building. But to those who knew her story, she was a force of nature. Maya Carter wasn't born into wealth, privilege, or connections. She was born and raised in Detroit, in a neighborhood where opportunities were rare and expectations were even lower. Her father worked double shifts at an auto plant. Her mother ran a hair salon out of their small home. From an early age, Maya learned the value of hard work, resilience, and most of all, self-respect. She was the kind of black woman who had to earn her seat at every table, sometimes by building the table herself. In college, Maya juggled a full class load during the day and worked night shifts as a waitress. While others partied, she learned how to code, design websites, and study consumer behavior. She graduated with honors and a business degree, and by 24, she had launched her own digital marketing agency from a shared apartment using borrowed Wi-Fi. Most people laughed, but by 27, she had landed 2 Fortune 500 clients. By 29, she sold the agency for $7 million. Maya could have retired early. She could have moved to the beach and disappeared. But that wasn't her. She wanted to build. She wanted to lead. And more than anything, she wanted to change the face of corporate America, one boardroom at a time. That's what brought her to this marketing firm. It was a once successful company, now struggling with outdated strategies, poor leadership, and a culture that was broken. They needed a shake-up, a new vision, someone bold. The board had quietly reached out to Maya through a mutual investor. Impressed by her record, her innovation, and her no-nonsense leadership style, they offered her the position of CEO and majority shareholder. She accepted on one condition. She would visit the office unannounced to see the company's real face before making any decisions. So she flew in quietly. No press release. No red carpet. No memo to the staff. She wanted to observe the company as it truly was, not what people pretended it to be when they knew the boss was watching. And what did she find? A cold, dismissive receptionist. An office that didn't value kindness. A company culture that made snap judgments, especially about women who looked like her. But Maya didn't lose her cool. She had dealt with worse. Much worse. Instead, she let them show their true colors, and they did quickly. Now she had all the information she needed. And she wasn't just going to take notes. She was going to take action. Because Maya Carter wasn't here to fit in. She was here to take over. It had been barely a minute since Maya Carter made the phone call. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't ask for help. She simply dialed one number, and that was enough to set off a chain reaction the receptionist would never forget. Within moments, the elevator at the far end of the lobby dinged open. Out stepped Richard Collins, one of the company's senior board members and partial owner of the firm. His tie was slightly crooked, his eyes wide with panic. He didn't even bother to greet the receptionist. He locked eyes with Maya and hurried toward her like a man who just realized he was standing on a collapsing bridge. "Miss Carter, I am so sorry," he blurted out. "They didn't recognize you. If I had known you were coming." Maya gave him the same calm smile she had offered the receptionist. "No worries, Richard. I got a good look at how things operate around here." She didn't need to say more. Her tone said everything. Richard turned to the now pale and frozen receptionist. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Maya didn't glare. She didn't scold. She simply walked past, calm, collected, and powerful. The silence in the elevator as it ascended was heavier than any words could be. Maya Carter had no interest in making a dramatic entrance. She let the situation speak for itself. And by the time the elevator doors opened to the executive floor, word had already begun to spread. Someone important is here. But no one knew just how important. Inside the boardroom, the usual Monday energy buzzed. Executives sipped their overpriced coffees, shared fake laughs, and prepared PowerPoints that no one really wanted to see. They didn't know the storm that was walking their way. Then the doors opened. Maya stepped in first, her heels echoing across the polished floor. Behind her, Richard followed, unusually quiet. Every head turned. Confusion spread like wildfire. One VP whispered, "Is she from HR?" Another mumbled, "Someone from legal maybe?" The room fell completely silent when Richard cleared his throat and said, "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Maya Carter, your new CEO." The color drained from several faces. A few tried to stand. One executive coughed nervously. Another forced a smile. But Maya didn't sit down. She didn't return their greetings. She looked around the room slowly, eyes steady, face unreadable. Then she spoke, calm and measured. "Don't worry. This meeting won't take long." No one dared to interrupt. No one knew what was coming next. But deep down, they all felt it. Things were about to change. The woman they had assumed was a visitor or intern was now the most powerful person in the building. And she had already seen everything she needed to. The room was still. Not a single voice. Not a single breath. Everyone sat frozen, eyes locked on the calm, composed black woman standing at the head of the boardroom. Maya Carter didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam the table. She didn't need to. Her presence, her silence, was enough to shake the room. She looked around slowly, pausing on each face for just a second longer than felt comfortable. The kind of pause that makes people wonder what you already know. Then she reached into her leather portfolio and pulled out a single sheet of paper. She laid it flat on the table in front of her and spoke with a voice steady as stone. "I came here today to see how this company really runs, not the version you show in meetings or on quarterly reports. I wanted to see how you treat people when you don't think they matter. And in 5 minutes, I saw everything I needed to see." A murmur stirred in the back. One executive cleared his throat as if to interrupt. Maya glanced in his direction, just a glance, and he immediately looked away. She turned toward the head of human resources. You allowed a front desk culture that judges people based on how they look. That doesn't happen overnight. That's a reflection of management. Then she looked at the CFO. You've been here 10 years and didn't even recognize the company's new majority shareholder. That tells me you've stopped paying attention. And finally, she turned to the former CEO, now seated awkwardly in the corner like a guest at his own funeral. You invited me here to fix this company. You said it needed a new vision. But you forgot to mention that the real problem wasn't sales or strategy. It was leadership. Then, without emotion, without hesitation, Maya pushed the paper across the table. It was a list, a termination notice. Every single executive's name was on it. Effective immediately, the entire executive management team is terminated. The silence shattered. Wait, what? You can't be serious. This is outrageous. You don't have the authority. Maya raised one hand slightly. They stopped. I own 58% of this company, she said simply. Not only can I do this, I just did. One woman pleaded for a second chance. Another accused her of being emotional. A third said, You don't understand how things work here. Maya just smiled. Exactly. And that's why things are going to start working differently. Within minutes, HR was processing exit paperwork. Security was politely escorting former executives out. A new era had begun. Maya wasn't angry. She was focused. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about respect. Something far too many people in that company had forgotten. And she was here to remind them, starting at the top. By noon that same day, the executive wing of the company looked completely different. The once busy hallway where high-level managers strutted around with coffee and ego was quiet. Empty offices. Cleared desks. It was as if a storm had rolled through and taken the old culture with it. But in reality, it wasn't a storm. It was a black woman named Maya Carter, and she hadn't come to destroy. She had come to rebuild. Within 48 hours, Maya had already taken action. She held personal one-on-one meetings with department leads, junior staff, and even the janitorial team. She listened. She asked questions. She took notes. For the first time in years, employees at the lower levels felt seen. One assistant said, It's the first time anyone in leadership even asked my opinion. A copywriter added, She looked me in the eye like my words mattered. That's the kind of leadership Maya brought, one built not on fear or titles, but on respect, accountability, and vision. She brought in a new management team, people chosen not because of where they went to school or how many suits they owned, but because of their talent, ideas, and empathy. The leadership team now looked more diverse, more innovative, and more human than ever before. Maya also overhauled the company's mission. Instead of just selling marketing services, the firm would now focus on purpose-driven branding, helping small businesses, minority-owned startups, and ethical companies grow and compete with the big players. Internally, she set clear policies against discrimination and bias. Everyone, from the front desk to the boardroom, was required to go through training on equity, inclusion, and cultural awareness. Even the receptionist, the same one who had dismissed Maya at the door, was given a chance to stay, but only after offering a sincere apology and agreeing to undergo retraining. Maya didn't believe in humiliation. She believed in second chances, but not without accountability. Under Maya's leadership, the company didn't just recover, it thrived. In just 12 months, profits increased by 40%. Employee satisfaction hit an all-time high. The company began attracting new clients, not just because of what they sold, but because of what they stood for. Maya Carter, once the black woman told to wait outside, was now being invited to speak at global conferences, mentor young entrepreneurs, and sit on multiple advisory boards. But she never bragged. She never posted about firing everyone. She let her results and her values speak for themselves. When asked in an interview how she stayed so calm that day in the lobby, Maya simply said, You don't fix a broken system by yelling at it. You fix it by leading better than it ever expected you to. And just like that, a company that almost dismissed her ended up being rebuilt in her image. Because she wasn't there to fit in. She was there to lead.